everybody. I'm an existential, eccentric intellectual having a narcissistic catharsis. We are Christina, Mike, and sometimes Steve, a cook/freelance writer, an audio guy/musician, and an opportunistic hustler/gingerback gorilla. This week, I talk about a few writing projects I'll probably never finish, but am currently pretty excited about, and the JFK assassination. That's about it for now. Let's go. All right, so I'd been thinking before your friend Sean came over and we all hang out about a horror movie and writing one called Frat House of the Devil. So Steve and I were walking around and I was thinking of House of the Devil 2, House of the Beast, which is at 666 Morningstar Drive.
Okay.
So I had that in my mind.
Right.
And then I came over to your house.
That's right.
To hang out and super chill. And your friend from your hometown?
Yeah, we both grew up in the same town, maybe 10 minutes from each other.
And you had him tell a story about these houses in your hometown that are supposedly connected by tunnels that were inhabited by this weird, eccentric, potentially inbred family in your town.
Right. This is something that I've heard about since I was a teenager, early 20s or something, and I believe it was my friend that told me these things. So I remember when he was here, he knew more about it than I did. I remember him telling me, and I got the third hand account. I'm like, and sometimes I even wondered, is this real? Or, I mean, he definitely told it to me and he told it to you.
Right.
Is it actually real? Who really knows? But supposedly it is.
Right, local lore.
Yeah, local lore. It's kind of nice to, in some kind of weird way, to have something like that, because I don't know. Do you feel that once everything is, everyone, well, actually, when everyone has a cell phone, which pretty much, at least I'm talking about the United States now, obviously not every person in the world has a cell phone.
Yeah, maybe not in Malawi.
Maybe not. But there are many people of all socioeconomic classes. This is not just rich folks having cell phones. It's all,
It's 2016, y'all.
It's 2016. So with that, gives us the opportunity to document so many types of things where whenever this happened 80 or 100 years ago, it's all word of mouth and, people may be interpreting things that weren't exactly true and
like the
making
game
up
of
stories.
telephone, historical telephone.
That's exactly what it is. But as time moves on and technology just gets more and more intrusive into our lives, it's kind of, let me an example, like musically. Back when Bob Dylan started in like the 1960 or 1961 or whenever it was, he told these tall tales that he was actually raised in a circus, and talking about circus life and stuff like that. Just because he thought that the idea of the interview might have been ridiculous, and he was just kind of having fun,
right?
And it's like, well, you can't go back and check this, but then fast forward almost 40 years later, and Jack White did the same thing, pretending like, yes, this is my sister Meg.
Right.
And it didn't take very long for people to find out that, no, actually, that's your wife and now ex-wife or something like that.
Yeah, they Googled it up.
Exactly. So I'm kind of wondering, when something, getting back to your story, I'm kind of wondering if we're going to hear that, like, in the year 2000, they didn't know if this was actually true. Maybe it's 9/11. Maybe it's something stupid.
It's like there haven't been that many real crystal clear pictures of ghosts since everybody has a cell phone.
I know.
Like, it's a lot harder to manipulate. I mean,
because everyone's like, oh, it's all photoshopped or whatever.
Yeah. Nobody's catching, 12 people in a room aren't snapping a picture of Hitler's ghost at Auschwitz or something. That was a thing of the past.
Yeah. So you took this little nugget that I gave you, and I remember telling you, I'm like, this particular story that my friend's telling you, I feel that you could really turn this into something interesting.
Oh yeah, and it gripped me because one of the houses, like apparently, like there was shenanigans going on in these houses. Who knows? Maybe potential
incest, I think, is what was said.
First consanguineal relationship breeding, and one of the houses might be a frat house. So my reaction was, of course, those guys freaking broke down that wall, like when the tunnels were bricked up.
Right.
Of course they did. You could justify it to yourself in 1,000 different ways. So these houses with all the tunnels in them. So I started writing this horror movie. I'm calling Frat House the Devil, but it might not work out that way. Who knows? Someday when it's made, and it's made $10 billion worldwide gross.
Woo!
In my mind.
Yeah, right.
But so yeah, I have it all, or a lot of it, blocked out in my head. I have a real strong visual. I've never written a screenplay before, so I'm kind of going through it over and over again. Like, so I get it down in regular English, then I convert it into like dialogue, and now I have to go through and like describe the settings in screenplay format.
Did you like go on the internet did you Google how to write a screenplay?
I fucking sure did. I can't go to NYU Film School or anything like that. My dad's not my dad's not a live person.
Well, that's the number one thing, yes.
Pay for me to go to fancy schmancy film school. So yeah, I'm doing Google Film School. Googled up how to format a screenplay, and I'm teaching myself. And I've been reading sample horror screenplays. I've been listening to the Blacklist table reads, because I want to write something that's compelling when someone reads it and you can see it in your head, because that's how it'll get made. I want to go to horror conventions and be like, hey, here's my thing. Can we do a table read of this? Or can I talk on a panel or something?
So that's what I was wondering what you're going to do with it, because
I think it's a real accessible genre.
Yeah. None of us have, an uncle that works in the movie business.
No, this is all pie in the sky.
Oh, yes.
Over the rainbow type dreaming. But why the fuck not? Like when I'm 100 years old and I'm in my rocking chair in Belgium somewhere, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to look back at my life and be like, oh, Michelle, if only I had written that screenplay. Because by then I'll have lived on the continent for so long. I have a weird, pan-European English accent.
Yeah. Well, there's other things that you can write, and there's other things that you're writing. I didn't know that you were going to do a screenplay. I know you've done some other writing because
it was so visual in my mind when I imagined it. And so Steve and I had been talking about financial advisors going on Ivy League college campuses to talk to boys there about why they shouldn't rape girls.
Oh, okay.
That a rape abatement seminar, rape deferment seminar, so that if you're talking to someone who, if you have a business degree from Wharton, you're not getting it so you can make $7 an hour at the Piggly Wiggly. And so just talking to people like a rape conviction will decrease your lifetime earnings by 7% or 70%, and an accusation can affect you up to like 33% less than you in your lifetime earnings than without it. So making it a personally selfish choice for these guys not to go out and commit sexual assault. So that's part of the movie, because it happens at a frat house. Traditional. I really want to make.
That's in the movie.
Yes. Okay. I really want to make these characters that get killed at the end real reprehensible. I don't want anybody to be like, oh, but he loved a puppy. No, that motherfucker. And he was just a horrible, horrible person. So I want to set them up in the first third of the movie as these guys are fucking douchebags, and then the rest of the movie plays out, and they're going to be murdered in a horrible way. And I want people at the end of the movie to be relieved, like, oh God, oh thank goodness, that horrible thing, so bring it back around, like I was talking about in a previous episode with the Invisibles, how the first adventure is like kind of guns ablaze and people getting shot in the head and stuff, and the next adventure has like an empathy trip where you're shown the life of this person that got shot and they didn't fucking deserve it any more than you and me ever deserve it. Like that death isn't really something we deserve, but it's something that we don't have to have something happen to us that is so horrible.
That's true.
So the first death is going to be real grisly and awful, and everyone's going to be like, yeah, these fuckers, they're fucking assholes. And then next death is going to be more like oh crap, like though it's fictional, like this is like somebody's potential kid. Like, this is an actual human being that is like suffering in a horrible way because the evil character in the movie is going to be the invisible spirit of this like antique abuser.
Okay.
So in the story, the exposition is going to be they find this leather book. The book explains that in this basement, the reason why it was walled up is because this guy did horrible things. This Hawthorne Carver, this character I created that was the descendant of the original owners who took to these tunnels and abused his disabled relatives, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if there's some inbreeding going on, like just because someone's inbred doesn't mean they deserve to be locked in a basement and tortured. So one of the relatives goes bazonkers crazy and tortures his disabled relatives. Like, so he's the most evil person in the movie now.
Okay.
Like, you set it up as these guys are kind of dicks and they're young and stupid and irresponsible, but like they encounter this elemental evil that is beyond them. And so
Right.
they're progressively killed in the movie. So I want it to become that. I want the end of the movie when the last character is unfortunately killed by this elemental evil to be just like, oh God, 5 seconds after the credits start rolling, I want the audience to like gasp and be like, okay, it's over. I'm not there. Like, I'm here in my living room or I'm here in the movie theater.
Now, what I love about you telling me this whole plot is that more than likely this episode is going to come out in 4 to 5 months. So you've got 4 or 5 months to get this down, because if not, then someone out there is going to steal it, homie.
Oh, yeah. No. If Frat House of the Devil comes out, I will hunt you down. Like, there's credits in the movie. They got to put your real name in there, and I will find your address. And, I got some crazy ideas.
Yeah.
I'm writing a horror movie. I'll skin you alive, and then I'll electrocute you, and then I'll like have dogs eat your face off. I'll think of something creative.
Yeah. What other creative endeavors are you working on at the same time? Are you're doing a couple other things too, like short stories, novels? What are you doing?
I want to write another movie, but
Okay.
a couple more. But first, I need to learn the format, right?
Okay,
Like,
so
I have
yeah.
high ambitions, low skill set. So first, I need to write through this horror movie, which really is going to be a real simple structure.
Yeah.
Like set up, horrible abomination, roll credits. So another movie I want to do that I think is really needs to be made pertinent very much for right now is called Things Fell Apart for Mark. Have I told you about Things Fell Apart for Mark?
You may have mentioned it, but I'm okay with hearing it again.
Mark is such a common name. We both know like 17 or 18 different dudes named Mark.
Yeah, we know
so
a lot
I
of
picked that
Marks.
name because it's so common for people our age. Mark and Mike, fucking Sarah. So many
Yeah,
freaking people named those
a lot
names.
of Sarahs.
So Things Fell Apart for Mark. My character, Mark, is a regular guy. There's really nothing remarkable about him. He has a regular job and a regular apartment in a regular American city. This city just is going to be, I think it's going to be Los Angeles that it's set in. Somewhere in California. It needs to be hot. So he starts dating this girl, real casual like, and he starts doing heroin with her. Like real casual. He doesn't even think about getting addicted, like for whatever reason. He just starts in this pattern of behavior. And so they break up. They don't really see each other anymore. She is still his supplier. He's not hooked up with the criminal underworld. He doesn't know where else to get heroin. So one night, he's hanging out with her and her brother. They're talking. Mark gets a big head and he says something misogynistic about this girl, not thinking that he's hanging out with her brother. Her brother gets pissed off. They both leave. So the next morning, he's used to calling them and hanging out before he goes to work and getting high on heroin. They're not returning his calls. I'm gonna fucking talk to you. The motherfucker Mark, you can fucking suck my dick, right? Where do you get heroin? You need it. You need it to not be sick all day at work. You
gotta
can't
go
go to
to the
work.
street, man.
So it's like, have you ever seen the Michael Douglas movie Falling Down?
No, I haven't seen it.
So throughout a movie, like it's the constant like progression towards like a fall. So that's what this is. It's his day
Right,
Like he
yeah.
leaves his apartment. So he wakes up, he needs his fix, he can't get it. What now? So he goes to, where do you go? You're a regular person. You're not a criminal. How do you find this thing that's highly illegal that you only have to talk to criminals to get? He goes to the bad part of town. He starts randomly talking to people. He gets robbed from the money that he had on him and his ID and his fucking shoes. Now he's wandering around the fucking ghetto shoeless, walletless.
Yeah.
So it's just his day falling apart. Eventually, there's
don't give it away.
Right. It's a horribly tragic ending, but a lot of people are living that life in America now. We've got opium coming in from Mexico. We've got it coming across the oceans. Afghanistan got opened up after the Gulf War II spread over there, and a lot of opium started pouring out of there. So the heroin addiction is a serious problem. Fentanyl addiction, opiate addiction in America and Canada is a serious problem right now. And I think a lot of people, like no one wakes up in the morning and thinks, you know what? My life sucks really bad. I'm going to make it a lot worse. I'm going to get addicted to this thing that will rule my life for the rest of my life. I think a lot of people fall into it. And I think people are just now starting to come around to an empathy for heroin addicts because it's so many people that traditionally would not like people that don't live on Skid Row in Gutter Town, in whatever, the downtown of whatever city you live in, like people that like your kid's kindergarten teacher or the judge that handled your parking ticket or anyone at all.
It affects all
it doesn't fucking
socioeconomic
discriminate.
classes.
If you get hooked on fucking opium, juice, whatever the fuck you want to call it, it's got you. It doesn't fucking care whether your hair is blonde or kinky and brown and curly or anywhere in between, or if your name's Sasha or Tiffany or Joe or Alice.
It's true. Now, is this going to be another screenplay? Is this going to be okay?
So I imagine somebody that looks like Jerry O'Connell, like having a breaking down day. And it's another thing, like sometimes I can see stories clearer in my mind visually. And so that's what I think of writing as a screenplay. Something that I think of more as like a progressive story, like, I don't know, in my mind, it would be Sherlock Holmes. Like something that's like a like a standalone story. There are things that I want to write as like written fiction.
So you're going to at least start by writing these, one of the screenplays, both of them eventually, and you're going to try to bring them to these conventions. I'm kind of wondering, like, if you maybe, that would get into like a whole nother thing. Like if you met some RIT film student that wanted to film something, would you then be like, hey, I wrote this screenplay and I understand it's not going to be a major Hollywood production, but maybe that could, I mean, if the other route of just going directly and it doesn't, you do it for like a long time.
Anyone
and
out there, like if I met a videographer even for weddings that was willing to like shoot this and put it together, it would be the most amazing thing in the world.
Yeah, well, you basically need a cinematographer. I'm going to send it to Troma and we're going to make producer. Swamp. Yeah, exactly.
Creature 5. Eventually, Frat House the Devil, with enough script tweaks, will become Swamp Creature 5.
Well,
I'd love to.
You know how it works, that like you hear those stories about how the particular
like with
director,
Super Troopers, how they went to like their friend's dad who had some money to invest in something, and they talked to him, they liked each other, he gave him the money to make the movie. I think they asked for $5 million or something, and he gave him $3 million. Yeah, and they just had to come up with the rest of them with like credit cards and like begging people on the street for money. And yeah, millions of dollars are a lot of money, and I'm not going to look for millions of dollars, but just writing it and having the vast privilege and pleasure to talk to other people that are interested in this kind of stuff. Like for a lot of my life, I talked to people that were interested in tiddlywinks, and my favorite game was dominoes. Nobody would talk to dominoes with me. Like that's what it feels like.
Right.
And finally, I'm meeting people that are like, oh yeah, I know how to play dominoes. Like any kind of creative person at all. So if anybody were interested in, I feel good about myself when I start talking and someone's just not like, nope, and immediately turns away and walks away. And they give me like 3 seconds and I can be like, I'm a weird spaz. And they're like, it's good. Right. Like give me 3 seconds to prove that I'm a spaz.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I do it because I'm ultimately compelled to. I can't stop.
you will find a break, I hope, at some point. That's what you need.
So like anytime it's like, someday I'm going to be famous. It's like that same kind of thing where I'm going to end up living under a bridge in Santa Monica, addicted to heroin, like giving blowjobs for $5 a piece.
Well, I certainly hope that is not the case.
Oh, thank
but
you. Sorry, what were you going to say now?
All I was going to say is that we're just trying to promote brand Christina so that it's like you need a break, but you want to just put yourself in a position to get
Give
that
me a
break.
Give me a break.
Wanyoza mtundu wanga iwe walagwa wapeta mtundu wanga ndati walagwa alikutia masayo atabela liti tifuna chipulumuto silifuna
Yeah, there's so many people. Like show business is, I think, is the one thing that, people throw themselves against the spiked fortress walls of.
Yeah.
And I don't want to even think for a billionth of a second that I have any chance at it. But I also don't want to not take the chance at it because someday I'm going to die. And someday I'm going to be, looking in that deep, dark, truthful mirror of myself and be like, oh man, I worked at McDonald's for 55 years and I never even bought a new pair of shoes and I never wrote that fucking screenplay.
Yeah.
Or I never talked to anybody. Like, I just want to not have to ever have a real job. I want to be able to sit out on a summer night and drink wine with my friend and her grandkid and eat pretzels off the grill and not have to drive through traffic and talk to somebody who's going to disrespect me all day.
Yeah, you just want to use your creative talents
jazz?
And get paid for it. I don't think that's a crazy thing.
I wouldn't even have to get paid for it if I could support myself in some other way.
Okay. Like what?
Like if I could work for 4 hours a day as
we talked about this. Like you would work like 4 hours at the puppy shelter so that you could come home and and write.
Exactly.
As long as you could write. And well, I mean, you could still have that creativity, but I think it would be great if, for any creative person, they eventually want it to get to the point where all they're doing is the creative and they actually can live a comfortable life. It doesn't have to be a life of extravagance, but it maybe not a life of abject poverty would be nice. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So if you're able to do that, and that's why we're doing all this, is so somebody out there hopefully will be able to hear this and then maybe go to the website and read anything that you want to post on there.
Yeah, man. I know a lot about a lot of really random crap. Yeah. If you need someone to go down an internet rabbit hole and find out information about something, I really am your person. I was looking today. Okay. So another thing that I'm writing is called Onward Toward Adventure. Have we talked about it before with Brett Whittington? Okay. So I'm writing an adventure novel. Another thing that I'm working on in my not so spare time. But it's called Onward Toward Adventure, and it's like every kind of adventure story you've ever seen.
Okay.
So it's Indiana Jones type adventure story. It's H.P. Lovecraft type adventure story. It's Mark Twain type adventure story.
Classic stuff.
It's really basic story, but it's based on, so I've been deep into universe creation. Today, even too, I took time out for it. So everything, like it's just like my favorite comic book of all time, The Invisible. Every conspiracy theory is true.
Oh, right.
So if you read about Piltdown Man, if you read about Tunguska, if you read about the Yeti, all that stuff is true, but it's in service of this weird world-controlling cult that is using ley line points around the world and the temples located thereon to power their evil plan. And their evil plan, they anoint these temples with the it's PG-13, but it's nothing that hasn't been like in comic books and movies and books before, but with virgin sacrifice of maidens.
Yeah, gotta have some virgin sacrifice.
So it creates all these interesting intersections.
Yeah, intersections.
Intersections. For some reason, I always call intersections transsections when I refer to it as something that's not like on the road. Like an intersection is something on the road,
Right.
like a trans.
Yeah, it's intersections.
Anyway, so I was reading about, don't spend a lot of time online, but when I do, I try to make really quick connections to things that I've been thinking about. So I was on Reddit and I was looking at this post. Not going to get into that. But so one of the points that we go to, so the characters in Onward Toward Adventure are based on me, Steve, and Mike.
Oh, all
in a
right.
very loose way at the beginning. So it's going to branch off from who we are pretty dramatically.
I hope so.
Over the course of the story. Like it's not
For
going to be
me,
like,
at least.
and it's not going to describe anything Mike does specifically.
you.
Like I'm not going to ask you like, Mike, if someone like stabbed you in the side and stepped in the foot and then punched you, what would your exact reaction be? No, I'm creating a character that is loosely based on my friend called Brett Whittington.
Brett Whittington, yeah. And Brett Whittington's also going to be in the first story. I asked if that same, not the same character, but the same name. I would like not all Christina stories, but maybe some or a lot. I want there to be a male character named Brett Whittington.
So far in House of the Devil, there is one unnamed character.
Ooh,
Everyone else has
yeah.
a name. So
Come on,
you're going
Brett
to be
Whittington.
the character that opens the door and starts the movie.
All right, okay.
And you're going to be wearing a name tag that says Brett on it.
Okay, so back to the other story you're talking
So
about.
one of the locations in Onward Toward Adventure, I'm also thinking about calling it the Lay of the Land, L-E-Y, like ley lines. So one of the places that we visit is Adelaide, Australia. And I've been reading also it's Monterey, California. So those two places are pertinent to the different things I've been thinking about lately. So in Adelaide, Australia in 1940 something, 6, one of those years.
All right.
There was found a dead man on the beach. Absolutely unidentified, no signs, like he wasn't stabbed, he wasn't shot. They think he was poisoned with digitalis, but this is after, like this is in like 2006, like they finally figured that out.
Okay.
It's like one of those perennial mysteries. So they found him on the beach, and it's really, really weird. So he was found with a clip out of a book, a certain word that means final or ended in Arabic, in his pocket, in the
Right.
coin pocket of his pants. That was found like 3 months after they found him. So they tracked down the book by putting out a call like, hey, if you have a copy of The Rubicon of Omar Khayyam, which is a book of poems. Like this is all real, okay? I did not make any of this up.
All right, yes. I believe you.
So they put out a call like, do you have the copy of this rare book that had this area clipped out of it? And someone comes forward like
Oh,
months
shit.
later that they had found in their car that was parked in an alley up the street from the beach where this guy was found. They found a copy of that book. They submitted it to the police, and it was the same book that thing had been clipped out of. So their car had been left unlocked in an alley. Whoever killed this guy, or this guy before he killed himself, or whatever,
Yeah.
opened their car door of a random stranger, put it in, and closed it.
Okay. He wanted it to
Maybe
be
a
found.
random stranger, maybe not.
He wanted it to be found, though.
Maybe. So it had in the back alphabetic code and the phone number of the unlisted phone number of a local nurse named Jessica Thompson.
Okay.
So in the story, I'm making it so that this guy, this unidentified man, because this is in Adelaide, in a place that I was already going to have them go in the story,
All right.
but I want something else to come out about it that they discover later on. So I'm taking a long time to write it because I want to make all these connections together before I finally commit it to paper.
That's okay. So I think in order...
Sorry, it's
Just-
real
yeah.
complicated.
It's okay. It's just not ready yet. It's still like anytime you create something, I know that when I was in a band writing songs, you would always be like the most excited about the newest idea. At least I
It's
was.
true, it's true, it's true.
But you just like, it's so like unformed, and it might be that it like peters out and another idea takes hold.
No,
and you
this
really
is
want
going
to
to be really great.
You think it's going to be good?
Yeah. So
Okay.
that this guy, so that the lady that he was going to meet, they were both members of this cult. He had a change of heart, so they were going to christen their newly controlled temple in Adelaide with a virgin sacrifice. And he was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So his agent that he met in the town, who is this Jessica Thompson person, had to kill him because he already knew too much. He can't be let alone to go away. So she had to kill him, but she felt really bad about it. So like creating that kind of like thing in my head, like, oh my God, that's amazing. So in this story, we travel around the world looking for a set of rare earth magnets that were stolen from Brett Whittington.
Oh, that's right. You did tell me this part of it.
This is how the story gets rolling.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. When you talk about that, it reminds me of the golden plates of the Mormons for some reason.
Rare earth magnets.
Yeah,
I mean, they can play a part too.
They could. Yeah, exactly.
I love Mormon mythology.
It is kind of interesting, but not to get into that.
No.
But we all wait to see one or all of these.
Yeah, that's why I talk
ideas.
about them so that people can hear about them. It's like, Christina, how's that story? Oh, that's right.
Well, it's on the clock now. You're on the clock now because like this is actually going to come out and someone's going to hear it and
think I'm an insane person
and just be like, what? No,
but I'm very
might wanna know
inspired
about it.
by like J.R.R. Tolkien or Frank Herbert and that kind of universe creation. And then going back and filling stories into that universe.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid of being grandiose and extreme with it because there's precedent for it.
Yeah, it just depends on, how much time you want to devote on it, how long, when's it done, when it's done, what do you do with it?
If Onward Toward Adventure takes me 20 years, I'm willing to put it in. Someday maybe it'll come out, but it's just the fun in it for me is creating a game of like fictional historical connections and being able to follow every hunch, like, oh, maybe like over here, let me find a point between these two places. And usually because the world's been around a long time with people, that if you pick any point on the map, there's usually some weird, freaky, unexplained shit that's happened there, and you can fold it right into the story.
Yeah, well, we're looking forward to certainly the first thing that you talked about. That seems to be the thing that will probably see the light of the day first.
Frat House of the Devil.
Frat House of the Devil.
666 Morningstar Drive.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
We okay. I met this girl before, it wasn't long ago. She was so beautiful, she looked like a model. She's from the tougher, an African ghetto. But she danced like everything's alright, giving me love, keeping me up all night. Abuja, we okay. In Accra, we okay. Bamako, we okay. In Cairo, we okay. Dakar, we okay. In Freetown, we okay. Kampala, we okay. Kinshasa, we okay.
So like a conspiracy theory can be anywhere between the lizard people that guy thinks run the world, or as something simple as global warming, or something as simple as, the police are corrupt. I guess whatever your level of delusion dictates what someone thinks a conspiracy theory is.
Okay, so I want to know, so we're going to talk about conspiracy theories if I need to start a new topic.
Sure. There's a billion of them. There are so many conspiracy theories. The only one that I quote unquote believe in, which I don't really even feel is a conspiracy, but it's categorized as that, is the assassination of JFK. When I was a kid, it wasn't just because of the Oliver Stone movie, although that really did bring it to light for me because I think I was 14 or 15 when that movie came out. I was pretty young, but it was very controversial at the time. But then, this is all before the internet. So when I see a movie like this, I took that to mean like, oh, that's actually what happened because it was a movie based on things that really happened. Yeah, guys, actual investigation.
Jim Garrison was a real person. He was an attorney from New Orleans and all this other stuff. But of course, as I got older, I realized that was just Oliver Stone's particular take on it.
One of very many.
And then, of course, when the internet came along, there was just so much information about it. And I just always felt it was really interesting. And but it is, I can see why people would call that a conspiracy theory. But
it's always interesting when there's hidden truths, right? When there's possibilities. I think that's what catches a lot of people's attention when it comes to the JFK assassination.
I think so. And I think also, too, it's the notion that how could this one really small, insignificant person somehow alter the course of history by killing the most important person on the planet.
Right.
Because the president of the United States, even in the 1960s, was the most important person that had the most influence around the entire world, even more so than Khrushchev or any of the other politicians of the time.
It could speak to the complete and total lack of security around important people, but the fact that the 1960s were like an age of assassination. People were assassinated all over the place.
Kennedy was first, and then it was like who was after that? Was like Malcolm X and Medgar Evers, and then MLK, and then RFK.
Yeah,
and then it was just, as they talk about in the Time Life videos, it was a time for change. Would you like to buy this 12 CD set? So, but that's the only one for me that that I ever sort of followed. And I do still believe that I don't know what the truth is, but
it's interesting that even going back to the Abraham Lincoln assassination, it was it was a conspiracy. So what it was a group of people that got together to do this thing, and they all knew it was going to happen, and they planned it out. And then every assassination in the 20th century has just been some guy who lost it, right?
Some random guy.
Lee Harvey Oswald was some guy who lost it. Sirhan Sirhan was some guy who lost it. James Earl Ray was just some guy who lost it. And they happened to very successfully assassinate really important people, right? Like Lee Harvey Oswald didn't miss.
If you believe that Lee Harvey Oswald did not kill JFK, which I don't believe that he did, that is the only one that I believe. But when I think of all these other conspiracy theories, and I don't want to, if you want to know about the JFK assassination, I would say go on the internet, but we're talking about rabbit holes. That is like the rabbit hole of rabbit holes. I don't know if that's wise.
I would recommend, there was a Frontline back in the 90s that covered the JFK assassination. Basically, if it was produced by any organization for public broadcasting, you can trust that it's not too crazy. If it talks about things that aren't legally proven or provable, you might want to take that with a grain of salt, but I mean, it's really one of those infinite kind of things where the conspiracy shapes to your belief system.
I mean, part of it actually was really based on science. When, I didn't know it at the time, but when I was 15 years old, when I'd see JFK or whatever, the people that wanted to believe that they felt like it was impossible. Like, how could this little piece of shit, Lee Harvey Oswald, kill the most important person on the planet? How is that even possible? And so when when he's up in the Texas school book depository on the 6th floor and all that other sort of shit, when they were they were using science to prove the facts, that to me was the most interesting aspect of it, is that it was using actual science, because science is something that is based on fact and mathematics, and that was something that I really related to.
Right, it's provable, it's disprovable.
Yes, it makes sense to me. Science, believe it or not, makes sense. We were talking before about climate change, and that's where this topic originated. Was there are some people that believe that climate change is a hoax and that it's a conspiracy. But with the JFK stuff, it was wait a minute here. It's actually, and you know what's most interesting, or not most interesting, but another interesting aspect about it is that there is some physical proof, but there were so few videos taken. Of course, the Zapruder film was the most famous, but there are other films that show different aspects of it and this, that, and the other. These days, in 2016, with the technology that we have, it's almost impossible for somebody in 2016 to pull that off. There's just no way that it could happen like that. I think the only possibility would be in a very, very remote third world country where not everybody has a camera phone, or not everything is videotaped, or whatever.
Right.
There could be this shroud of mystery, which I think which is kind of sometimes what people like the 60s has a romanticism because it's hazy and it isn't digitally
the
perfect.
fog of war.
Yeah.
So he was on the 6th floor of the school book depository.
Right.
In 2016, he wouldn't have made it out of the building.
No,
The level of security and the amount of people that would be standing there, like randomly taking a selfie on a street corner. You like to hope that kind of thing's impossible, right? Like the movie La Femme Nikita, where somebody like shoots a sniper rifle out of a hotel room and it's all silenced and they hit like the Namibian ambassador and she sneaks away. You like to think that's impossible, but I mean, I guess.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is that, you know, this is all, of course, in retrospect, but Kennedy was like, no, of course I'm going to put the top down. The people in Dallas want to see me because it was 63. The the election was going to be in less than a year. Mm-hmm. And even though Lyndon Johnson was from Texas, I think he wanted to sort of booster his appeal with the Southern people because especially with Southern Democrats, because he had taken this stance near the end of his presidency that, they didn't sign the Civil Rights Act until 1965, but this was November of 63 when he was assassinated, that was the direction that he was going to be heading in.
Yeah.
And all those Southern Democrats were like, what? That's where the great divide, I think, happened. And a lot of those Southern Democrats then decided to go over to the Republicans because they're like, so you don't like black people, right?
Right.
Oh,
and I just read an article about RFK after the assassination of JFK. And his initial response was a deep feeling of guilt that he had been stirring up too much stuff with, anti-discrimination things and dealing with the mafia and
because that was
Cuban
one of the rumors.
gangsters,
Yeah, that was
all
part
that
of
stuff
the
they were
rumors.
stirring up, that he felt responsible that one of these factions he'd stirred up had done it. And is it possible? Yeah, it's about 1 billion percent possible.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. But anyways, so that's like the only conspiracy theory, if you want to believe that, if that is truly one, that is one that has always sort of fascinated me. But all the rest of them, the thing that I guess the question I want to answer is, why do people believe in all of these conspiracy theories? Because it's not the people that believe it. Like, I think
you gotta
I'm the
define
exception.
it, because a conspiracy theory is only a conspiracy theory until somebody proves that it's real, right? Like aliens, right? If a scientist that was a scientist and used the scientific method and shit came forward tomorrow and was like, all right, here's the 12 different kinds of aliens. Here's like all the evidence that you need to support a scientific paper. I'd be like, all right, shit, maybe there's fucking aliens.
Right.
But until then, I honestly don't believe that aliens have visited people. I honestly don't believe.
That's mental illness.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
I think it's the same thing as sleep paralysis and seeing a succubus or an incubus come into your room. I think it's something else going on. But to the level that kind of stuff, like space aliens and like lizard people operating the government, is lumped in with just questioning whether the official version of events is true. Anything can be spun into a conspiracy that Sony actually uses the souls of puppies to make their TVs glow.
And we don't know. That could be true. Maybe
right. Anything's possible.
But what I was going to say is that for myself, I feel that I'm the exception, that there is, again, if you're going to go with saying that the JFK assassination, if you don't believe Lee Harvey Oswald did it, then you're a conspiracy theorist. That is the only thing. There is one. I find that people that believe in other conspiracy theories usually believe in most of them.
There's just so much information out there. Some people approach it with a biased perspective.
Okay.
And so that's where, you know what I mean? Like, you can see patterns in things that aren't really patterns, or you could see proof
is it because
of things
people
that
want
don't
to
really exist.
Is it because is it human nature that we feel like every puzzle must be solved?
And it's
There's
lot
a
of
reason
times,
for
like
everything.
you said, like when the JFK assassination happened,
Watch that glass.
a lot of people just we're in denial. Like, there's no way this little weaselly motherfucker could take out the most powerful man in the world, so something else has to go on. I think that it too is that it's almost too much to believe that an actual group of like actual old white dudes actually meet once a year in a room and decide like the shit that's going to happen for that year as far as like them like reaping the raping of the world. So instead of just like, oh, like, duh, everybody knows that a bunch of white guys meet in a room somewhere and like figure that shit out. So like putting extra layers on it, like there's space aliens raping virgins in Omaha, and there's lizard people in control in Bavarian Grove and the Bilderberg Group and the Rothschilds and all this stuff. When really it's just some dude that got born into the right family who doesn't really know jack about shit, who decides like, oh, like it's gonna make an extra 17% in the fourth quarter. Yeah, dump that poison in the water. I don't care. That it's just that it's just that stupid. It's just that base and obvious that you need to put those layers on it.
I agree with you, because I think when I was younger and I had much more of a belief in the supernatural or God or whatever, it's like I always wanted to be like, all right, God, when I'm over, can you like tell me what the real shit is, okay? Because like this person thought this person thought that, I thought this, but like, what is the real story?
Yeah, I was real excited when I was a Christian kid, because it's like, awesome. So I get to know everything about everything when I die. Cool, bring that on. That's all I want. That's why I'm going to stick with this.
And God, while you're whispering in my ear about like what is real, it's like, yes, JFK was killed by the Cubans or whoever, or no, actually climate change is not real and it's just me fucking with you.
Right. It's fuzzy bears. It's all because of gummy bears. They got radios in their little fuzzy souls.
Exactly. Or it's like, and while you're doing that, God, can you just play like my highlight reel? Because we all have our highlight reels. It's like, oh yeah, man, when I was fucking that chick, and like, you know, when I was hanging out with my bros, and like I was doing
eating that
this,
giant
and,
sandwich.
woo, yeah, and it, like when I had the best sandwich of all time, and you know, all that other stuff. That's all. That's really all I want to hear. But yeah, I don't know, conspiracy theories or actually, it's more so conspiracy theorists always just. They make me appreciate more what it means to be human, and the respect that I can't believe that there are certain people that believe that shit.
It's true.
You know, I think that's kind of the fascination with it.
All right, that was our show. Geez, that was great. We'd like to thank Steelwells for letting us use their song Dive as our intro and outro music. You can find Steelwells on YouTube, Facebook, Last.fm, and SoundCloud. Please buy their stuff. And it gives me great joy to thank the very best for the use of their songs, Yoshua Alakute and We OK featuring Kanan. I send them a truck full of love. Both songs are from their album MTMTMK, all capital letters, which you can buy at any fine music establishment. They are touring on the festival circuit in Europe all summer. If you can, you should go see them. I bet it's amazing. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. You can find the Narcat blog online at narcat.me, on Facebook at NarcatPod, Twitter at NarcatPod, and we're Instagramming as NarcatPod as well. We'll see you soon.